Hey, I'm Johnny Palmer, and this is my aeroplane. A lot of people ask questions about it, so rather than answering the same questions 1,000 times, we thought we should make a video answering those questions, which means that when you come around and see the place, we can have more intelligent conversations, or I can learn more about you. So Penny, the producer, has compiled a whole load of questions for me to answer, which we're going to do now. How did the idea come about to get a plane? Well, my mate Ross, he was filming on aeroplanes at a place called Kemble Airfield, which is now called Cotswolds Airport, and he told me they had a bunch of old aeroplanes down there, and I thought, that sounds cool, I like aeroplanes. So we went down there and had a look at the aeroplanes, and that's where the idea first came from. Do I have any aviation background, or was this a spontaneous decision? Aviation background, no, but I love aeroplanes. As a little kid growing up on a farm in Tasmania, I always wanted to own an aeroplane. I pictured myself in an aeroplane with buttons and cockpits and planes and stuff. And as happens with manifestations sometimes, you think about things enough and they happen, and it did. But in my vision, the plane never actually flew. It was just a plane that I could sit on, and that's exactly what I got. What is the history of this plane? So it's a Boeing 727-100 series. It was built in 1968, originally for Japan Airlines. They had a 3+3 configuration. That means there's 3 seats there, 3 seats there, all the way down the aeroplane. A bit like what Ryanair or EasyJet would have. And then in 1981, someone, we don't know who, bought it and then did this to it. So this is pure kitsch, early 80s decor. From there, it then was bought by a guy called Lars Magnusson, who's some Danish billionaire investor. We know that because we found a video of him on YouTube on this plane. And then another guy called Mark Kruger, who ran a slightly questionable airline moving around cargo in West Africa, moving bananas allegedly on giant 747s. He bought it, his private jet. Then something went a bit wrong and some paperwork went missing, and then it couldn't fly ever again. And that's when it was decommissioned. And then it got moved by road from Filton Airport in Bristol to Kemble Airport, where my mate Mark had it for a few years, doing similar stuff to me. Mark was done with it, he's got a few more where this one came from. I bought it off him, brought it to Bristol, and here it is now. Where does one buy a plane? You could go to Boeing and get one, but you'd be paying quite a lot for one like this. Or you could go to an aircraft graveyard. There's quite a few of these places around the world. And once they've sold off the engines and the APUs and the fancy electronic stuff, the actual fuselage doesn't carry much value. They pretty much chop them up for scrap. So whenever they have these fuselages, anyone who's going to take them and pay a sensible amount of money for them, more than scrap, is usually pretty welcome to do so. So yeah, look for your local aircraft scrapyard and you might be able to find one. What changes have we made to the plane? So when I first got this, I had some now ridiculous idea to rip it out and refit it. And my wife, Kathy, was like, no, it's like so of an era and so kitsch and so gaudy, don't mess with it. Treat it like a restoration job. So the whole process has been about restoring what's already here and getting things that used to work working again. So changes, we've done a lot of rewiring, a lot of plumbing, a lot of data, completely redone the sound system, redone the video. But all of those things are actually hidden. You don't see them as you walk around. So fundamentally, restoration and invisible tech to make it a really enjoyable experience. Process of getting the plane to where it is. Okay, so luckily, my mate Mark had already prepped it for road transport to get it from Filton to Kemble Airfield. So all we had to do was get it back onto a lorry. But it's not quite that simple because we had to get our transport company, Cook Transport, Steve, fantastic guy, very talented man. He liaised with multiple police, what are they called, constabularies, to get road closures to move it from Kemble down the M5, which is I think South Gloucestershire, through into Bristol. Then when it parked up in the yard just out there, I got 2 massive cranes in, huge ones, to be able to pick this thing up and move it across and plonk it down on the pre-assembled steelwork that we'd fabricated beforehand. So truck, cranes, on the containers, lash it down. What do I primarily use the plane for? So we have a lot of meetings on here. We have a lot of parties. I have sleepovers sometimes with friends and my kids. It's used for dinner parties and it's on Airbnb. So we make a few quid out of it, not much. And all that money goes back into making it better. What I'm working on at the moment though is putting a quite advanced renewable power system in. So we're gonna try and get the 24 volt DC bus completely off grid using a battery array. So yeah, it's used for lots of different things. Can you rent the plane? Yeah, you can. On Airbnb, you can book it by the night. It's quite good fun, really good experience. And if you want to do something like a film shoot, if it's commercial, yeah, you can rent it. But if you're doing something like a indie film or like a music video that's like you know, for students or you're progressing your creative practice, get in contact with us because we often just lend it to people for free. We love it being used, and anything we can do to contribute to the artistic sort of melting pot of our region, we'll donate the plane for it. So do get in contact. If you want to stay overnight, Airbnb. Most memorable event of the plane, there's actually been quite a few. So second only to the day I got married and the days that my 2 kids were born, PYTCHAir coming here was the funnest day of my life. Again, after getting married and having 2 kids, of course. The funnest day ever. It was nuts. That was brilliant. Other ones, we had a rave in the yard once and the security didn't do the best job and the plane got mobbed by about 150 people, totally out of control. We had to turn the lights off to get them all off. Another time, some friends of mine were doing a drum and bass music video, so we made this room a nightclub and somehow rammed about 50 people in here. And then also on a personal level, all the sort of endless movie nights with my kids. I love coming here, we eat pizza, eat junk food, and watch films they probably shouldn't be watching. So many memories, so many memories. It's a really, really happy place for me, and hopefully lots of other people that have joined us here too. The best use of the plane so far, I reckon, is probably the fact that it's changed the area we're in. This area is, let's be honest, a pretty grotty industrial estate, Brislington in Bristol. It's not the fanciest, newest industrial estate. It's not a super cool tech park, but by this aeroplane coming here, it suddenly changed the narrative of the space. It became an interesting place that was experimental, creative, experiential, more vibes. So yeah, the catalyst it's been for positive change in an industrial area has been fantastic. The coolest features on the plane, gotta be the switches in the cockpit. If you've ever done like aeroplane cockpit switches, they're the best switches ever. They like make a really big clunk sound, and some of them, when you flick them, a big relay goes clunk halfway down the aircraft. That's well cool. The other things, the best features are the absurd things like the 3 toilets, the shower, that's cool. I quite like the sound system too, but we added that later on, so it doesn't really count. Are there parts of the plane that still work? Yeah, there are. If you do things in the right order or the wrong order, depending on which way you look at it, you can make sirens go off in the cockpit. A lot of the light switches work. That was a labor of love. The air stairs, they're the big like motorized stairs at the back of the plane. We got them working through weeks of endless electrical and mechanical engineering. So many features, and there's all these cupboards and stuff everywhere. It's great, I love the place. Future plans for this plane? Not really, want to keep refining it. There's still a few little things to do, but it's mostly done. So the future plan is another plane. So watch this space. Maybe, subject to a few, planets aligning in the right way, there might be another project very similar to this one, but a little bit bigger and a bit more noticeable. So watch this space, can't say too much. How much did the plane cost including to get here? It's a touchy one, that, because it's a bit confidential because the people that sold it to me don't want to set expectations for better or worse. That's not a helpful answer. What I will say though, is that when it was new, it would have been about 50 million quid, but that's when it had engines and wings. So I didn't pay that much for it. It was a pretty good deal, but a fair deal, Still very much friends with the people that I did the deal with, so hopefully they feel they got a good deal and I feel I got a great deal. So that's a good deal for everyone. Best and worst thing of owning a plane. The best thing is having a place to bring people together. It's really nice that when I meet someone new in business or socially and I can invite them around for a coffee to a place that's just a bit weird, it's quite nice. It always creates good conversations and a good laugh. So the interactions that come off the back of it. The worst thing about having a plane, I think like any property, and I've got quite a lot of property, every property is a responsibility. You've got to look after it, keep it clean, maintain it. Things do invariably go wrong, so it's just a bit of work, but the cost and the hassle of the work is tiny compared to the benefits. So overall, it's a great thing to have. Do I know how much it weighs and what it's equivalent to? I do, and there's a story. So my mate Mark that sold me the plane, and sorry if you're watching this, Mark, he said it weighed something like 15 ton, and I'm like, I don't think that's right. So I did some research on what the plane weighed with the engines and the wings. Then I did some research on the engines and what they weighed, the JT9Ds that it had, and I worked backwards, and I'm like, I think it's a lot more than we think it is. So I told, luckily, the crane guys that I thought that it weighed maybe up to 40 ton. Turned out, because I've got load cells, they know what things the lifting weigh, the number is 27 ton. Any other plane themed plans? Yes, I love aeroplanes. The engineering's beautiful. The design's just magnificent. Everything from passenger aircraft to private jets. The thought that goes into the details is amazing. So yes, I want to do more aeroplane things, and there is something on the horizon which I'm working on, but lots of things have to line up perfectly for that particular project to happen. But if it does, this will still be great, but this new one will be absolutely spectacular.